Let's hear it for Jess, everybody, one more time.
Can you guys all hear me in the back? All right. So I am not super seasoned in React. I was originally a graphic designer, and then I went to a boot camp last summer, and I really, really like it. I've gone from looking at it like, what is this craziness, to really enjoying working in it. So I really thank Tyler for this meetup and this opportunity to learn more stuff. And here is the beginning of my code. So Tyler gave us this file that has all the calls, and I thought about modifying it, but it was working, and it would have been drier, I think, if I had been able to add some functionality in here to not have to be so elaborate everywhere else. But it's pretty sound. And then the app file, it has the routes like we talked about. And what I did is I embraced that feature of the reloading. So in component did mount, get count. And this is the get count. And this is what I'm talking about, it not being very dry. I go out and grab those counts and I put them in the navigation and I pass it down through the props. So log in. If you go to the terms, there's nothing up there, it doesn't show anything. You log in and look, Penny's created forwards and definitions.
I'm going to hold this for you, okay? It's kind of quiet in the back.
Okay, thank you. So Penny she's done all these cool things, and this gets updated every time something happens. So add a term. So I embraced that feature. I thought that was pretty good. I didn't realize it wasn't supposed to be there, and it seems to work. In the long run, I'd like to find a better way to do that because I think it is hitting the API a little bit too often. It hits it about 6 times every time it renders, so that's not ideal. Let's see. So my approach was to read through everything. I read through the documentation like 4 times. I added notes about how to start this up quickly, so if I went back to it later, it wouldn't be a super big headache. And I tested the API with direct calls in the browser, which I think, I don't know if I have that open. Let's see. So I saved all of this stuff for later debugging, and that was really helpful later when something crazy was happening and it wasn't working. Tyler gave us directions at one point that didn't make any sense to me, so I just changed what I did. Having this documentation here helped that a lot. One of the things that every time I work in React, I kind of rediscover, and I know a lot of you are real familiar with this, is just how reusable everything is. So I have these components, and I've made it look really nice, and really Tyler did most of that work. And then it's just there, and when I go to it and look at it individually, it's just there, and I could use it in all kinds of other ways. I could make flashcards, and I don't have to do anything else to this term. It's already there, and I really like that usability and reusability, to not have to keep building things over and over. They're just flexible. So I was making steady progress on the app. Every couple hours I'd be like, oh cool, I made this new thing, it worked. And then I got to the counts. And you're right, that was very challenging. So that took probably the longest of anything, was figuring out how to do that. And the way that I did was started in the app. We pulled that data, and then it got passed down in the props, where did it do that? I think maybe in, yeah. So we pass them down in the props, and it goes through layout, and then it goes through, gets passed down, and hits the navigation. And I haven't used Router all that much, so it was really cool to learn all the cool different ways that you can pass stuff around with Router. And I also hadn't used React Bootstrap before. So when I first loaded this up, I was looking for where are all these components that he clearly built somewhere. But no, that was all the Bootstrap, and that was really, really cool to learn about. Going forward, I would like to fix hitting the API too often. I would like to figure out how to make a function for all of the code that calls that hits the API, and like this thing just happens over and over. But then each thing was a little bit different, like just enough different that I wasn't real comfortable making that a function yet. I also want to put in error messages, field validation, and I'd like to add more functionality. In the long run, I would really like this to actually be something that lives on the web and works, because I often struggle with hearing a million new terms every time I go research something, and then I look that stuff up, and then there's new terms in that. So having just like a repository of all these words that after a while become just our language, but at the beginning are so complicated. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Any questions?
Question?
How do you give you props for being brave enough to change the styling?
Any questions?